Good evening and welcome to the kickoff event of the AI Hackathon Salz21. Thank you everyone for joining us today and thank you for your patience as well. I know we are a bit late. My name is Karin Gabriel and I have the pleasure of being your host today. The reason why we are here is because of a fantastic team that are working really endlessly behind the background, the team of New Native and lablab.ai. And I would now like to invite one of the co-founders with me on stage, Matthias, to share with us what lablab.ai is actually all about, what their mission and vision is. Matthias, hello.
So sorry, I was muted. Yes, thank you so much. With LabLab, we basically wanted to create a space where people can come and build with very new AI technologies. So what we do is that we are kind of curating. We're trying to figure out what is the next thing, the new building blocks in AI, and we work pretty close with those AI labs that are building these technologies to, in many cases, get a very early access or a pre-market access to our community. Then we are running hackathons where people from all the world are coming together, creating teams and build amazing stuff. We see everyone from industry experts. They are already working at a very high level at Google or Meta or other well-known big tech companies to beginners, like people that really want to get into the space. And New Native is kind of the parent organization. So with New Native, what we are aiming to do is to create a healthier investment ecosystem, so to say, where everyone that actually build incredible stuff get a chance to get a good support on their journey moving forward. So we are really passionate about empowering innovation and empowering those that are behind that innovation. We don't really care about politics or geography so much. We care about supporting those that are aiming to solve both small and big problems. So that's it in a nutshell.
And I know this is not your first hackathon. How many hackathons have you run since you launched New Native and lablab.ai?
Yes, I think on the LabLab platform we have run about 20 hackathons. Actually started out about 1.5 years earlier, but then it was on location. We just started running on the weekends. Everybody could come and build with AI, but pretty soon we grow out the spaces we had, and we needed to rethink like how can we recreate this experience online, which is not the easiest thing to do. But we managed to come up with a relatively good way to connect different people and get them to build stuff. And it's a continuous progress with everything you as a normal startup, you can say. We iterate and we improve.
Fantastic. And I think what's really interesting about, moving it online is the fact that you're not limiting it to any geographic borders anymore. Usually when you run such hackathons, is it focused on a specific region, or do you have countries from all over the world represented in the teams?
Yeah, so we are, we can say we are non-agnostic when it comes to area. So we welcome people from all corners of the world, and that's also an amazing thing that we can see teams come together. We have somebody coming from the tech mecca of Silicon Valley, and we have people coming from India and Africa and Europe. So everywhere around, and that's really the amazing thing. And many people come back to us afterwards and tell us they had an amazing experience, and they actually met friends for life or got contacts for life, because now they spent everything between 2 days and a week really working intensively together, trying to solve problems and move their project forward. So that's really something amazing, and we can already see actually people that came together online actually creating a product that solves a big problem and that really innovates in an area. We can already see them moving forward and actually creating real companies around this now, and this was not really possible before. Not only the problem wasn't really to connect people, I would say it was rather a technology problem and building with technologies. But now, as the big progression in AI and especially the foundation models we have right now, it really allows people to build market changing stuff in a matter of 2 to 7 days, and that was not possible, not even say a year ago. To do similar stuff then would have required 6 months or 12 months and a lot of money.
That's super exciting, and actually, so for the teams that are joining today, this could be the beginning of something fantastic and a really exciting journey. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Matthias. We're going to speak later about the technical support the teams get throughout the hackathon. So today is the kickoff event, as mentioned before, and what we want to do is give you all the details you need to succeed in this hackathon, so to give you an orientation. We're going to talk about the event that this hackathon is embedded in, and that's Salz21. We, of course, give you an understanding on what the challenge will be, the criteria on how you will be evaluated, and of course, have also 2 fantastic AI experts as speakers with us later today. So I mentioned that this hackathon is embedded in an event, which is called Salz21. And it's an honor to have now Christian Wenninger with us today, who is the head of exhibitions at Messe Salzburg. He and his team are organizing this event, which is taking place next week on Wednesday and Thursday in Salzburg. Hello, Christopher. Hello, Christian. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello.
Fantastic. So how many hours of sleep do you get these days?
That's the wrong question.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine.
But we are on time. I just came back from the building of the stage of AI. It looks fantastic. You all will have big eyes when you see it. So we prepare well, and we are on time, and we'll have a great show on Wednesday together.
So Salz21, tell us a bit more about what's the idea behind it, what's the concept, why did you and your team launch this new form of conference? So what is its aim?
So the name Salz21 comes from Salzburg is a region which is quite rich based on the salt history. So, and we thought digging into mines and grabbing the white salt, which could be, if it's too much, it's salty. If it's too less, it's sweet and it doesn't taste as good as well. So we thought we would like to make a new event format which finds the salt of the 21st century. And these are connections and collaborations. So with the format, we would like to enable in a physical space. It's all great that we here sit together and have a stream and sitting in different regions in the world, but the physical exchange is happening in places like exhibition halls, conference centers, etc. And this is what we would like to perform with the Salz21 Festival, together with your community and celebrating AI in all different dimensions in 2 days on 2 stages, with a really great program where you can connect, share, speak with a lot of people. The uniqueness of the program is that every speaker is on site, so no VIP areas or special hidden areas. So meeting people on launch areas next to the coffee bars, small stages, and as well as not a huge big summit where thousands of people are sitting together in conference rooms and listening. We are nailing it down to small side stages where you can really have exchange. And This is a new style of collaboration, as well as in the center of Europe here in Salzburg, which is as well known from big corporations, which will be part of the festival as well. But of course, it goes about you, all of you, people which are aiming and supporting these new technologies, which you will be able to feel as well here in Salzburg on Wednesday.
That sounds fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to those 2 days on March 15th and 16th. Kristen, when you look at the program agenda, what are some of the topics that are, to you personally, of real interest, where you say, oh my God, I'm so happy that we could confirm these speakers or that we finally talk about this topic? Is there anything in particular that stands out to you personally?
Yes, and that's you, for example. So it was a dream for me to bring AI hackathons from the virtual space to the physical. So it's absolutely a pleasure for me to have you all on board with Matthias, Pavel, and all the others, having them locally with us. But as well as different stuff, which I personally really like, is we have Sophia from Hanson Robotics who are locally with us. We're flying her in from Hong Kong, and I think it's absolutely unique to be able that every visitor is able to speak with a humanoid. So normally you only see them on stages and then they put them away, but you have really the chance to speak with such persons like Sophia, one of the most famous humanoids in the world. But as well as panels which are mainly talking about AI and what's happening with us, so the future of civilization, or even transhumanism or hyperhumanism, where we have really great speakers from all over the world. So where we have different spotlights of what is AI doing with us. And a lot of specialists are coming. I'm not an AI specialist. I'm an exhibition expert, but I'm looking forward to meet all of you on Wednesday.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Christian. I'm really looking forward to Salz21 next week in Salzburg, in Austria. And the fantastic thing is as well that one of the winning teams will also get a fantastic prize of the Salzburg startup community, Startup Salzburg. And we have now 2 representatives with us, Natascha Deutinger, who is the head of startup at Startup Salzburg, and Christoph Moos of Innovation Salzburg. Good evening to you too. Can you tell us a bit more about Startup Salzburg?
Good evening. Nice to hear or see you, all of you. And Karin, thank you for the introduction. What is Startup Salzburg about? I just missed in the talk from Christian. What is the best thing that you are going to meet at Salz21? These are our startups, actually. Come on, Christian. He forgot a very important part out of it. There will be quite a big expo where we are going to, give a stage to our startups and all the incubatees in our programs. So afterwards, I'm going to give you a short talk about what are we doing, and I know we are on a global journey here somehow, but nevertheless, the finals are in Salzburg, so we are looking forward to welcome and support you here in Salzburg as well afterwards.
Brilliant, fantastic. And Christoph, you were part of Salz21 last year. What has your experience been, and can you tell us a bit more about Innovation Salzburg overall?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me here. I was participant last year also in Salz21, and it was the first edition of Salz21, and I was really amazed about the whole atmosphere that was transported and transferred, and it's really a festival of innovative people coming together, entrepreneurs and scientists and researchers and companies and corporates, and everybody's coming together and want to bring things forward. And that's actually what Salzburg is all about. It's about a science and innovation ecosystem that's bringing people together, and it's Salzburg is quite happy, quite lucky to have a good size of having good companies, large companies that can bring things forward, but also it's small enough to have a really good network of people talking together and working together and bringing things where they want them to be. So we invite everybody here who's in these hackathons to get in touch with us. If you want to bring things forward, Salzburg is the right place for you as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christoph. So if you find a fantastic team over the next 4 days online hackathon and you think this really has potential to take it forward, to incubate it, to turn it into a business, Startup Salzburg would be a great place for you to look at. As I mentioned, Salz21 is taking place on the 15th and 16th of March next week, Wednesday and Thursday. And there are some important deadlines that you have to keep in mind. And the first one is that you have to submit your project. And we're going to talk a bit later on how exactly you submit your project, midnight, March 14th to March 15th. So this is basically the deadline for you to know. And the great thing is that we will have winners announcement on March 16th as part of the official program at 5:30 p.m. At 5 p.m. actually. So this is when we will get to know who are the winners of this AI hackathon, Salz21. And I think it's really interesting, as Christian mentioned, that we now combine the online world, the online hackathon, but then having the big celebration of the winners as well. And of course, the showcasing at a real conference, at a real event where we can interact personally. Now, these are the most important dates for you to know. The question now is, okay, so what kind of platforms do we use? How do we connect with each other to make sure that we actually can build these projects, these prototypes that we have in mind over the next 4 days? And Olesia from lablab.ai from New Native is going to give us an overview on the different platforms and, of course, going to talk a bit about Discord. Hello, Olesia.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you for introduction. I'm excited to join the stream today. We're on the back end all the time organizing this event for you, and I'm really happy now to go on the stage and briefly guide you through the platform and Discord. So I'm happy to present you 6 steps, really easy guides through the event that you will have. So first of all, you need to create or join a team. Also, you may work in solo, and how to do each of these steps I will explain you more details on the next slides, but let's go with just overview for now. The second step will be meet your team on Discord or pick any communication channel that is great for you to talk with team, to make your plans, to discuss the idea. After that, you will come up with 2-3 concepts of the projects you want to build during the hackathon. And on the 4th step, you will contact with mentor to discuss this step actually and to pick the one which is the best and the easiest to realize in the most realistic, I would say, in these 4 days. And you will get this okay go and you may go and build. After that, you will have to build your prototype. It's actually a very complex process when you will work on technical side on one hand and also on business side on the second part. So you will think on your business model, think about your users and actually build the software. And on the 6th step, you will actually submit your solutions and make the presentation. Let's go to each of the steps in more details. So once you register to the hackathon or to the platform in general, you have your profile. And we kindly recommend you to fill out all the profile before going to the hackathon. Because when you will submit your solution, you may not show up on the event page if not all of this important things on your profile are filled out. So make sure that you go to your profile and fill it up with all the links, with your pictures, with your bio, so people can easily interact with you on the platform. Let's go to the next slide and we will see how to create or join your team. When you just register to the event, you will have this dashboard button. So you can go to the dashboard when you will see quick intro and I would say instruction to the hackathon. And then you will see the option to create your team. So click into this option, you will be the admin of your team and you may have some manipulation there. So you will see it on the screen. But now let's go to the second option with joining the team. So if you want to join some existing team to then create yours, you will have the list below of all the teams that created during this hackathon. And there you may pick the one that are looking for members. So you will see this little label like looking for members and you may join this team. just simply click and join team button. Let's go to the next slide, which is communication with your team. So after you join the team or you formed one, you can, when you have more than 2 members in your team, you can create your Discord team channel where you can easily communicate with your team members and also with all other members of LabLab in our Discord. Let's move on. And how can you communicate with mentors? During the hackathon, you may face a situation when you need mentor help on something. It can be related to the tech or to the business plan or to the platform itself. So the easiest way to do this on Discord, you may just simply tag mentor and ask your questions. So some of us will jump on and help you with your request. Also, you may use calling for help tag on your team page on lablab.ai. So all the mentors will see that your team needs help and will jump on and try to solve the issue. And mentors are available through all the event, and we have the schedule that will be shared with you on Discord. But usually in any specific time, we are available like all the time, at least 1 or 2 mentors are available. Let's go to the next, which is more fun part. So on our Discord, you have a ton of really useful content that can be great for your project. We have dedicated channels for the hackathons. We have I Need Help channel where you may ask whatever questions you have. And we have also tutorials and articles, memes even, and some section that can be useful for you during your learning journey. Let's move on to the last slide for me. Actually, very good question. So if you see that you are working on your project through like 1 or 2 days and your team is not replying you or is inactive, what to do when you face this issue? So here you have 2 ways. First of all, you can just simply join another team and help them with their solution, bring some fresh ideas, bring your skills to this team by communicating on Discord, tagging people and tell that you are looking for a new team. Or if you already know your concept and know your idea and you are sure that your background is great enough to build your project by your own, you can work in solo. That's also fine for the hackathon. And also in the forum, we have this amazing thread when all the people that have an active team during this hackathon are communicating with each other. So you may form the team with people that are in the same situation as you are actually. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm giving the stage to Karin back to talk about challenges and technologies.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alessia. And I think it becomes really clear is that you and your colleagues have run multiple hackathons. You really know what's going to happen. You know the situations that come up to really support the teams. And what's even more fantastic is that you as the participants get supported along the way, maybe through different guides you can access, but also through mentors you can ask. And as said, like once you form a team, you create 2 to 3 concepts, then you discuss them with the mentors, you get the okay, go, and then you start working on the prototype, which means that you don't risk working on a prototype that, maybe is not going in a good direction and then have to reset all over again. So you really have this check-in and the support by the mentors. Now, as every good hackathon, we of course have a challenge for you. And I think the great thing about this challenge is that it only has 2 criterion. So it's very broad, which in itself can be a challenge, but it's also super exciting, at least in my perspective. So what's the challenge for you? You have to, first of all, utilize a generative AI tool. And Matthias is going to talk in a bit what these different tools are. So use a generative AI tool to build a ready-to-use solution within 4 days of the hackathon, which means we really want to see a prototype in 4 days. So March 14th is when you get to present your prototype. So generative AI and then a ready-to-use solution, a prototype. You decide what you're going to focus on. Who is your target audience? What's this problem you want to solve? The use case, so to say. That's totally up to you. Maybe you want to focus on students. You want to focus on businesses. You want to focus on public sector organizations. You want to focus on individuals, on the society. Whatever you want, that's up to you. but we needed to focus on a generative AI and to make sure that we have a ready prototype. All right, so generative AI, let's take a look, Matthias, at what are the different AI technologies that the teams can access.
Yes. During this hackathon, we will talk about two different providers you can use, but feel free to use any other technology that you find on the lablab.ai website. The first one I will talk about is the OpenAI tech stack. So probably most of you heard about OpenAI and all the things they are doing in this space. There have been a lot of buzz last couple of weeks around ChatGPT and such systems. And the really great thing is that since about a week or 2 weeks ago, the ChatGPT API are available and you can now build on it. But to look over the technologies, you have GPT-3 and ChatGPT that are both generative AI. This can be used from anything between generating out text to actually extract context out of text. So they are really great and really powerful tools, and they are really, really good at everything from creating conversations to writing stories, or simply use them to ask questions and get answers from a given information base. And then you have Whisper, which is a voice-to-text API. So that means that I could give a talk with the system, just normally like this, and it will actually in the background transcribe this into text and feed a system. A cool thing with Whisper is that it's really, really good at actually understanding what you are saying. Because we all know the frustration when you're trying to tell your phone to play a song or set an alarm, and it just believes you're saying something totally different. But Whisper is really, really good and can do this at a really high level. So I recommend everyone to check that one out. We have DALL-E 2, which is basically an image generator. So it can create anything you possibly can imagine with images, regardless if it's photorealistic or, say, digital art. Codex is, say, a sibling of GPT-3. What this is good at is actually generating code. So just as GPT-3 and ChatGPT-3 are really good at anything normal text, Codex are really good at code. So just to talk about some examples what you can build with this stack. So we've seen people actually building tools that are utilizing Whisper to extract a conversation out of a YouTube video. Then using GPT-3 to understand some of the key points in it. In this case, it was a team that built a solution that allowed you to easily give a URL to any type of YouTube video, where the video was about investment advice into the stock market. So what it did was actually it used Whisper to extract the content. It used GPT-3 to actually extract the right context out of this video. And finally, it used Codex to actually write the code needed to be able to backtest this theories that the author of the video had talked about to see if they actually worked. We can move on to the next stack, which is the Cohere. Cohere is quite similar to OpenAI. There is some differences between them. Cohere also have a model called Generate. That's the same, really good at generating text output, but also extracting context. They have Classify, which is helps you to actually classify input. So if we have a text coming in, some way, and we need to kind of route that to the right function, then you can use classify to determine if it's A, B, or C, for example. Another really powerful thing are embeds. This allows you to take a large chunk of data, actually. So say you have a whole book, for example. You can feed that whole book into it, and now you can actually ask any type of questions around it, and it will use that data to answer it. And a really good thing with Cohere is that they support a lot of languages. So their segmentic search, I think, is really, really good at about 7 languages, but can handle 10 or 20 other languages at a decent level. So this actually allows you to build applications that are very localized, because currently we see a lot of great applications coming, but most of them are on English. But this is really a great opportunity to build something that are aimed towards a specific geographic market and a specific niche. And I would really recommend everyone to think like, how can you combine these different things to build something? So maybe use Whisper to allow the user to actually give voice commands or talk with the system. Use Classify to maybe understand where we should route this input. And use, for example, the Cohere multilingual semantic search to find the information in your user base. If you have any lack of inspiration, just go to lablab.ai. Up in the menu, you have, I think it's called AI apps. Click in there and you will find about 600 or 700 different applications that community already built that can help you to inspire you to build something. And we also have a lot of great boilerplates and starting kits there that will help you to get started really, really fast. It's only I would say that the most important thing is to come up with the ID. Once you come up with the ID, it's most likely possible to do. But think what we see really successful is people that come up with great niche use cases. So yes, that's me about technology.
Thank you, Matthias. And you already mentioned the website lablab.ai/tech. So this is where you find a lot of guides as well, of course, on Discord. And I'm already fascinated because I've only the ones you mentioned are the applications. I've only knew, I think, 3 of them. So I really want to check out the others as well. Thanks a lot for that, Matthias. All right. So now you know the tech support you can get, in addition to, of course, the mentor support. Another important question, of course, is, well, all of the submissions that we'll receive on March 14th at midnight, how do we actually evaluate them and how do we decide on the winners? Well, there are a few criteria that we have decided on, and I just want to run them by you to make sure that you all are aware of them. So the first one is, of course, the degree of completion. As mentioned earlier, we really want to make sure that you have a prototype that you can present to us. The next point is your presentation style. So you will record as a team a video that's up to five minutes that you will upload, that then the judging panel will take a look at. And this is, of course, really related to storytelling. How do you tell the story? How do you convince the judging panel that there is a problem that you're trying to solve? And also, how have you applied generative AI? Which brings me to the next point, applicability and business value. So what value does your solution actually bring to the market to solve the problem? How innovative is your concept and your prototype? And Matthias mentioned maybe looking at a niche problem, that's something that's not very common, could be something that's very innovative. Then, of course, the use of technology. So how realistically can it be then also scaled up? The impact, which is pretty much related to the business value. So how unique is it? And the overall impression of you, your team, the way you have presented, and of course the solution. So these are the criteria that and if we can go to the next, the judging panel will then use your prototype. Fantastic prizes. And the winners, of course, and that's fantastic, will have a chance to showcase the solution at Salz21 at the conference, which, as Christian mentioned earlier, is going to be a super thrilling conference that is taking place on March 15th and 16th. And then, of course, we have fantastic other prizes that will be distributed among the winners. One of them is a place in the Startup Salzburg community for 6 months. And I want to invite back Natasha to the stage to tell us a bit more about this community and the incubator.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So about this incubator, I hope you guys can hear me and see my slides as well. What is the incubator? Actually, we are 4 service points, 1 strong ecosystem here in Salzburg, offering comprehensive, tailored coachings and support activities from the idea to the market. All these startup points that you can see here on the slide, they work with the startup fund to create a tailored roadmap for implementing their project. As I'm not sure if my slides are changing, I hope so they do. Don't worry, I'm not going to speak about all these single logos that you can find here. It's just the idea to give you a kind of a impression about the ecosystem that we are in. It's a small, quite young, fine ecosystem, but a growing one. We try to work together with as a kind of a channeler to give you the possibility to get in contact with important providers, supporters, corporates, as you can see here, and private funded accelerators, public funded incubators, and so on. We have set up a kind of a systematic way to success somehow here in Salzburg. We call it our Salzburg maturity model, which means that each startup gets exactly the support it needs at every stage. Whether you're just starting out and are looking for guidance or want to learn from mentors or are looking for specific access to capital or investors, we will try to give you the best advice and hopefully also a kind of a tailored, specifically tailored to you support. For you guys, it definitely means this is the shape. This would be the next program that we are running now starting already in April. This is called Shape. This is the pre-incubation program where we start to develop a marketable business model. That means there is an open call, but you guys, you will get a wild card if you win the hackathon. And that means that in this program, the individuals and the teams will work on innovative. Mentioned it before, innovation is the key, one of the criteria, Karin, I think, and we are really looking at innovative and scalable business ideas at the end. And the first steps should have been done. You're in a hackathon, so the first steps are done, but we have to work on several other things like analyzing the target group, setting up the business model, doing the market surveys, and all the other stuff that you can find. What will you get for this? If you want to develop your MVP and achieve your proof of concept, which means proving that the business model really works in terms on one side technically and also the economically wise, we will help you with selected knowledge blocks which are provided by experts in workshops and very individually derived to your process, and hopefully you are able to derive it into your product development and the further development of the products and services. Then in regular group meetings are called peer sessions. You can exchange yourself among other experienced or less experienced people, but it's the group of it's the peer benefit that we want to bring up here. And at the end, there are some goodies, some tools, and so on. When accomplished this, after you got the wildcard, as mentioned before, after being the winner, you can go into the incubation program, but I don't want to force on it. There are so many of them. 7 years, we are doing it already 7 years. We have about 40 graduates at the moment, 90 incubatees. That means 50 companies around us. Again, several logos, as you can see. We do not have a kind of a thematic focus here in Salzburg in our incubation programs. We are broadly positioned. There are some strong areas like media tech, enterprise tech, ed tech. Meanwhile, sports tech is also starting to present itself somehow as a possible focus area. We will see what happens. Nevertheless, to have other people here, there are two special programs as well, but I'm not going to force them. Maybe the second one. Yeah, you're techie guys here. Since you're here, you are tech savvy somehow. We are a local incubation partner for the European, for the ESA BIC program, which means this is the business incubator from the European Space Agency. So if you guys are dealing with Earth observation data and you can also deal with launches and really rocket science, but usually we are focusing here on companies in the downstream sector, which means especially the ones using technologies from the space and data from the space in their business model. We can find additional support to you. I think that's enough for me. There are several other things I hope we will see on the Salz21. This is exactly from the last year, I think, at the end of our pitches. But my colleague Christoph is going to give you just some more information about like startups, but I can't imagine that this happens, that you don't like startups. Maybe there are also some possibilities that you would like to come to Salzburg with another purpose. Christoph, give us some insights.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. I will keep it short, but I think the goal of every startup is to be a competence. That's what we're dealing with also in Salzburg. And let me a bit about the science and innovation ecosystem. Of course, science and innovation system consists of three pillars, I'd say. One is the businesses, the companies, the startups that Natasha already told you about. In Salzburg, we have a quite large community of big players, of small players. It's called, you probably know. And that's all something that's located here. But a second pillar that we also have here, I don't want to go too much into detail of all the companies that we have here. The biggest part that I want to mention, that we have a strong community also in science research here. Later you will have the opportunity to listen to Simon, who is part of this community here and will give you an insight into what he's doing here in Salzburg. We have some amazing things going on. We have a lot of investment funding for data sciences, for artificial intelligence, big data, for cybersecurity, topics that you will probably work on in the next days also. So I really want to opportunity to invite you to get to know Salzburg, get to know the community here, because the third pillar that we rely on in the science and innovation system is the people, bright minds, open eyes and open minds, bring forward some new ideas. And on the last slide, the X-Digit slide, this is just one specific program, one specific initiative that I want to mention. My baby, actually, what I'm doing most of the time. It's a big initiative of the state of Salzburg that really wants to build bridges between disciplines, between technologies, between fields of application. And the bridge should be built by data science and technology. That's actually exactly what you are doing. So we invite you to build these bridges and work together with us here in Salzburg, obviously.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Natasha and Christoph. That's an extremely valuable prize that we're going to distribute among one of the winning teams. And thank you again for being the partner of this year's AI Hackathon Salz21. Three more really interesting and exciting prizes we have to distribute among the winners are 2 Flex memberships for 6 months for the Talent Garden platform, Digital Ocean credits, and a chance to pitch your project to an experienced panel of investors. I did mention earlier that we want you to upload a video, and I just want to, before I'm going to talk about the details about this video, here are 3 tips that the lablab.ai team has put together for you based on the 20+ hackathons they've run so far. And the first one is really look at creating a diverse team. So ideally, you have people who have a technical background, but also those who don't have a technical background, because each of you brings a very unique perspective to the team. Choose a communication channel that works for you. So of course we have Discord, but if there are any other platforms you want to use, feel free, as long as there's a clear and continuous communication among all of you. And then, of course, also make sure that you look at how do you divide those 4 days. 4 days sounds long, but in the end, it's not, because we also have to sleep and eat. But how do you, distribute the workload? What are the deadlines you set yourself internally? So really treat it as a project where you're working together. And then let's now talk about the presentation. As I mentioned, you will upload a presentation at midnight, March 14th, so just before March 15th starts, where you're going to talk about, what you have built. You're going to give us a demo about the prototype, the process, how did you go about it? Maybe what kind of obstacles did you face and how did you overcome them? And if you have already a business plan, that's fantastic, then please add it as well. The challenge here is that you only have 5 minutes for the video, as we can see on the next slide. So 5 minutes, this is where we're going to cut it off, and you have to submit it on lablab.ai team page. More details will then be shared on Discord. And if you want to upload a video that's 6 minutes long, by all means, please go ahead, but the judging panel will only view it until the 5th minute. So be very mindful about that. All right, so these were the most important details about the AI hackathon. You all know what to do, and what kind of support system you have. I now have the honor to invite one of our first speakers. Christoph already mentioned him earlier, Simon Hierländer. He is the team lead Smart Analytics and Reinforcement Learning at the University of Salzburg. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Hello. Thanks
Good to
a lot.
have you. I love your title, AI in the Wild. I'm really curious what you're going to share with us now. The stage is all yours. Please take it away.
Thanks a lot. So I start my presentation. Just give me a second. So, all right. I hope you see the slides now. Is this correct?
Yes, I can see. Just also checking in with our tech expert, Max. Are we all clear? Brilliant.
Perfect. So thanks a lot. It's a great honor to be here because I like what you're doing, the spirit of what you're doing, and it sounds like my life sometimes. My life is a hackathon from time to time. And I show you now some hacks I did on my way. Currently, as already was mentioned, I'm in Salzburg, but before I was at CERN. And I will just briefly introduce myself and my history. I think this is a nice introduction. So I got the chance, I got a scholarship from in physics at CERN, and I was really happy to be accepted. And what I did there is I was solving equations. I tried to calculate electromagnetic interactions for the Large Hadron Collider, which is the largest accelerator we will see in a second at CERN. And this is interesting because I spend a lot of time in solving equations, in thinking, and you see here a 2D picture of geometry where I try to find a solution. And after a long time, I came up with the idea to change my perspective and look at it from above and map this plane onto a sphere, and I found a solution. And this is, I think, something a computer will or won't be able soon to come up with. But let's move on. I was then accepted as a fellow at CERN. This is a program over several years. And I really went back, away from theory to operation. I show you then what this means. It was really a hands-on job. I had to control accelerators from one day to the other, and it was life-changing, I have to say. And I discovered machine learning and reinforcement learning on the way, and it was great, I have to say. And I'm still fascinated by these subjects, especially reinforcement learning. And currently, I'm still a visiting scientist at CERN, so I go there from time to time and do experiments. And now I'm in Salzburg. You see here a nice image of the village of Salzburg, or the city of Salzburg, sorry. And my team I built up there and I lead consists of two parts, namely smart analytics, which is more the classical machine learning part, which deals with classical methods from machine learning, but also deep learning methods, data science, and also the automatization in companies. This brings you usually the money. But the second part is my vision. The reinforcement learning part is my true passion, let's say, and I want to establish reinforcement learning in the real world. And I do research in academia and industry towards this, and I teach these methods here in Salzburg, and I supervise students to slowly get there, but it's not easy, as we will see. So this was the short introduction that you know my background, and now this is the overview of my presentation. I will shortly talk about what is reinforcement learning, why is it so fascinating, what is CERN, and why reinforcement learning is interesting there. And then I show you the history as the implementation of the first reinforcement learning and some selected applications. And I will conclude. So let's jump into the topic. What we see here is the face of Lee Sedol, one of the best Go players of the world. And he was defeated by an algorithm, namely AlphaGo, in 2016, which was a milestone in artificial intelligence. Nobody would have expected that. And this was done using reinforcement learning. And this is the standard, the classical textbook of reinforcement learning by Sutton and Pato. And since 2016, if you look on the number of citations, they really just grow and grow and grow. So there's more and more interest since then. And if we compare it to the moment when a computer was better than a human in chess, this happened 19 years earlier. Garry Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue, which was the computer by IBM. And this was still rule-based. So this was another way of solving problems. Here you see another fascinating event, or let's say, let's call it event. 2 years later, OpenAI was able to solve Rubik's Cube with a robot hand, just from the camera image. And this is even hard for a human to handle this cube. So this is totally fascinating. This is another 2 years later, a robot which is actually was trained by reinforcement learning and is sorting objects, which was not possible otherwise. So this is one of the first real-world applications of reinforcement learning I know about. By real world, I mean not in an only digital way, by the way. And this is something all about, maybe This is ChatGPT, and you might use it during the hackathon. And the interesting thing here is that the last part, which makes it so fascinating, was done with reinforcement learning. They applied an algorithm which is called proximal policy optimization, and this made it so interesting then, finally. But let's move on. What is reinforcement learning? Reinforcement learning addresses a fundamental challenge of artificial intelligence, namely, learn how to make good decisions under uncertainty. And if you think about this, maybe this is underlying intelligence in general, because we constantly make decisions under uncertainty. And how does this work? So you see here two researchers who teach a chicken to pick on this pink bed. And how do they do this? If the chicken takes the right action, they give it a reward. And this is the motivation of reinforcement learning, and shows exactly how you, as a as a person who applies reinforcement learning, is acting. The chicken is the algorithm, and the chicken observes where the pink bed lies and takes an action according to this. And for this, it gets the reward. And this is all we do when we apply reinforcement learning. The goal of the algorithm is to maximize the reward along the way. And finally, we try to find a function which tells us for each state our system is in, what action to take to achieve our goal. So we want to learn this function, which is called policy, through experience, which means from data. And the reward tells the algorithm what the goal is and how to achieve this goal. This is designed by us. We have to capture the world well enough that we can learn a good policy, and we can only learn about things we really experienced sufficiently. If you compare this, most of you are maybe familiar with supervised learning. What happens there? We have data from observations, and then we start to model. And when we have this model, we apply it to the world, we develop a strategy, predict something for us. But what could happen? It might change the world. And so our model might fail. The assumptions of our model might be not correct anymore. So this is solved by reinforcement learning. Namely, it learns about the consequences of the decisions. It learns how the world works when you apply a policy to it. And this is the huge difference to other machine learning approaches. But let's go back to Go. So Go is a fascinating game, one of the oldest games and one of the most complex games we know. And for the algorithm AlphaGo 0, which is another version of AlphaGo, it took 40 days to learn 3,000 years of human knowledge, which sounds impressive. AlphaGo played 4.9 million games against itself. So this is only possible in simulations, of course. If you would play this in the real world, it would take several hundreds of years. And this is one of the main bottlenecks in applying reinforcement learning to the real world. You only take as little data as possible because it needs time to interact. So the main question is, mainly for me, how to close this gap? How to take the the experience we have from AlphaGo or from winning the Go game towards our world. So if we want to apply reinforcement learning to the real world, this is only one challenge. We face many challenges along the way. This concerns stability. This concerns runtime. For example, an algorithm could take a very long time to give you a response. Maybe it's much slower than reality, and then you would not be able to apply it. Hyperparameter tuning is an issue you always experience when you do machine learning with these modern techniques, let's say. But it's especially tricky in reinforcement learning because it's an interactive process. So changing one hyperparameter maybe changes the whole thing. Another issue is exploration and safety. We said we can only learn about things we saw. We have to explore somehow, but this might be tricky in reality. And also, reinforcement learning methods assume that our system is somehow stationary, but reality most of the times isn't. So we face many problems when we want to apply reinforcement learning. But now let's jump to CERN. So what is CERN and why reinforcement learning is interesting there? CERN is a European organization for nuclear research. It was founded in 1954. It was a project which has the aim to do science for peace, and is the largest particle accelerator lab in the world. It has more than 12,000 users from more than 70 countries. And the mission is to provide the infrastructure to do really important experiments for fundamental physics, which try to answer the question, how did the universe start and what glues things together? And the current flagship is the Large Hadron Collider. Let's have a look in a short video how this works. So CERN is in Geneva, and this is the Large Hadron Collider. This is the largest. It's 27 kilometers in circumference. And the journey of a particle starts with a gas bottle where the particles are ionized and then accelerated to higher and higher energies in electric fields in larger and larger accelerators, circular accelerators. This is the LHC, where you have two counter-rotating beams, and they are collided at interaction points where you have the big detectors to measure what you want to do. So this is just one experiment. This is the whole complex, and you see a lot of accelerators there and a lot of experiments, and you can imagine how complicated it is to control such a complex system. And the highlighted parts are accelerators or experiments I worked already with in machine learning. And we concentrate only on the awake, the advanced wake field experiment, and the low energy ion ring, the LIR. When I started my fellowship, I was told to operate the LIR. So I had to supervise and operate this accelerator. And it's really complex per design. It's an old machine. And usually in the morning, you enter the control room and something is not working. And you have to recover the performance as fast as possible. And this was a very repetitive thing. So we came up with the idea of maybe applying automatic optimization algorithms there. So this is the control room where you sit and try to control. You have the screens in front of you. It looks like the NASA maybe. And I started to implement classical control algorithms from the 60s in very simple user phases to automatize these processes. And this is just to show you what the motivation behind is maybe. Let's assume that we want to find this minimum here. We don't know where it is, and we have two controllers to steer. So what would we do? We would turn one until we find a good value, then we would turn the other until we find a good value, and then the one again, and so on. If you compare this to an optimizer, a numerical optimizer, it would do the following. It goes into one direction, it goes into the other direction, and from there on it can estimate what a good direction is, and it's much faster as we ever will be. And this is only in 2 dimensions. So they made an impressive job, let's say. They reduced some routines from hours, manual steering, to below 1 hour automatic setup. But we wanted to go further. We wanted to go beyond this because optimization algorithms don't have any memory. They always learn from scratch, let's say, and they cannot use existing data. And with reinforcement learning, we also can address a much larger class of problems. So this is what we hoped, that we just measure and we solve the problem in one go. We founded a group, and this is the interesting thing maybe for all of you, of enthusiasts. We met every Friday for coffee and cookies, and we were discussing machine learning problems and its real-world applications. Here the cookies are highlighted. I'm not lying, we really had cookies there, and we had nice people there. It was great. We had physicists, mathematicians, computer scientists, engineers, and it was like an everyday hackathon for a while, and it was really cool. We did pioneering work, and this brings me to the next part of the talk, which is how the first reinforcement learning experiments happened, and I show you some nice selected applications. So what I did at that time was that I was fascinated. I wanted to have the most simple case possible I could imagine, and this was this situation where you have a particle, this screen point, which was going through this Linac 3, and then it was here at the BHN10, which is a magnet which deflects this particle, which was an ion beam, and then it was measured here with this beam position monitor, and then it was injected into this low energy ion ring, and it measured the intensity there. So we had the action was the magnet, which was a discrete action. We had a state, which was a continuous state, and the reward was how much gets into the accelerator. So it's not really meaningful, but it was a proof of concept experiment. I used the DQN, a famous algorithm, a famous deep reinforcement learning algorithm, and it worked. Nevertheless, there were many challenges concerning the implementation from the infrastructural side, not only implementing the DQN, but it was somehow a success. And from this on, the journey started, and we made a benchmark environment at this awake trajectory steering. So awake is located here in the accelerator complex, and this is a really interesting experiment because what is done there is that you take the protons from the SPS, which are high energetic protons there. They have a very high energy, and they are then here overlapped with an electron beam, and the protons create a so-called wake field. They create high gradients, and they just really fastly accelerate these electrons, and you can accelerate electrons in a few meters to energies where you usually would need kilometers of accelerator length. And what we did there was also a relatively simple job. We tried to steer the beam. The beam is steered with magnets. The magnets deflect the beam along the way. These were the electrons, and they were steered towards a target trajectory, and they were measured along the way. And the goal was to, whatever trajectory you observe, the algorithm should learn to go as fast as possible to the target trajectory. So this was the particle, and this was the goal. And I show you now just the history, how this evolved over the years. So when we started with this, we used off-the-shelf algorithms, which are really important algorithms you find implemented in many libraries. But we had to somehow tailor the methods a bit for our case. So this is a specific algorithm, which is the normalized advantage function algorithm, which takes some constraints into consideration, so it gets a bit faster. And then we moved on towards model-based reinforcement learning, where the reinforcement learning agent learns not only what is good and what is bad, but also how the world works, how the dynamics of the world behaves. And so the algorithm can start to plan before interacting with the system. This makes it much faster. And the latest tests, which are from December, this is a screenshot here of bad quality because I just took a screenshot, and this shows an experiment. So you see here the blue line, and if the blue line is low at 1, the problem is solved. And it took only a few steps using a model-based algorithm, which is not using deep networks anymore. And this was a really impressive and fascinating result. So this is now at the level where you can apply it instead of hours in minutes. So it's really towards applicability. Another example I want to show you is also really interesting. It's also the awake, but now we do something different. Now we measure as or our state is an image. We measure the beam, which has specific characteristics on an image, and we have some controls which are highly nonlinear. And what we did there is we used a variational autoencoder to link the physical parameters to the latent space of this image, which are just a very reduced representation of this image. And from that, we could generate artificial images. So it's really like faking images. And on this, we trained a soft actor critic, I think it was. And this was also a really nice way of bringing many ingredients together, let's say. And let's look a bit into the future. So we have still many problems. We were discussing sample efficiency, but you face so many problems more. And one way to go is maybe towards meta reinforcement learning. It means learning to learn reinforcement learning. It sounds very abstract, but let's explain it. Let's assume an algorithm learns how to hike, and it learns how to ski, and it learns how to ride a horse, and so on. It learns many tasks, and it learns to learn these tasks. It's not learning one task, it's just learning to learn tasks. And when you show it a new task, it might be very fast in this new task. So we have a simulation, we cover all these tasks, but we don't know the truth. And then we apply this reinforcement learning in the real world, and it might be extremely fast. And this is also very recent, just to give you an idea how well this might work. So we have here an experiment on the left side without this meta reinforcement learning training of an algorithm which is called cross-region policy optimization, which takes 18,000 steps on this awake problem, which is slightly modified in each task, but it only makes 45 on average in success. While when you pre-train it with meta reinforcement learning, it can solve the job within just 70 steps maximum and always solves it. So you can use, for example, a very stable algorithm, meta train it, and get all the benefits, the theoretical benefits of this algorithm then in the real application. So this brings me to the conclusions, but just to show you, there are many other applications, not only at CERN, but also in other labs. But let's come back to Salzburg maybe, just to show you some things we are doing here locally. There is multi-agent reinforcement learning by Sabrina, where she is trying to solve a device-to-device communication problem. Or Reof is doing the automatization of assembly lines using hierarchical reinforcement learning. Or Juan is training autonomous robots. Or you can do reinforcement learning in medicine, in insulin dosing. I showed you these meta-learning studies from Lucas, and I also do research in applying the technology to reduce the energy consumption of companies. So, in my opinion, reinforcement learning has a huge potential. At CERN now, we are in a much better situation than it was when I started. Now people can modularly put their things together for their problem. They have, let's say, a Lego system of agents, and they put them together to apply them. Slowly, reinforcement learning and artificial intelligence finds its way to our everyday life, but still, it's mainly a research topic, which is a pity, in my opinion. And I think it's up to us to unlock the full potential of reinforcement learning. And so I wish you good luck with the hackathon. This is a really cool event, and you saw some hacks at CERN. So thanks for your attention. I know I've only 3 minutes left, so I hurry a bit. This is the reality. You interact with the full system very often and sit in front of the computer. So if you have any questions, let me know or send me an email. Thanks for your attention. Maybe we have time for a question or two. So I didn't see the time. I'm very sorry.
That's okay.
I was just estimating.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks a lot for giving us an insight into the really fascinating world of reinforcement learning. First of all, what I'm taking away that even the truly smart people at CERN love cookies and coffee. So I think this is a universal thing. That's great. Just one question, very briefly, because I know we are short on time. Because you're so immersed in reinforcement learning, and you mentioned that there's, it has a full potential, but what is for you personally a use case where you think, oh my God, this is something I'm super excited about. This is something that through my work, I have understood that there's a massive potential in applying it in a specific field. What would you say?
Well, I would not have any specific application in my head. I would say it's more the spirit of having this interactive idea in machine learning, which means that I dream about machines which learn along the way for the whole existence, right? That we go away from the static perspective, that we have an algorithm which does the same thing over and over again, we go towards something which is might be a bit smart and adapts to changes in the reality. Yeah? This is what I'm dreaming of, but yes, it's a long way to go there.
Brilliant. Well, looking at the massive impact that has been achieved in such a short time span, I do hope your dream then will become a reality sooner or later. And thanks a lot for taking the time today, Simon, and giving us an insight into your expertise and into your work.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The AI Hackathon, as Matthias mentioned in the beginning, is for many teams the start of really a truly exciting entrepreneurial journey. And I'm very honored to have now our final speaker with us today, Sebastian, who is the Chief Growth Officer at WeAccelerate. And Sebastian, welcome to the stage.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I know that you are, of course, currently the Chief Growth Officer, but you are an entrepreneur and a co-founder yourself, so you really understand what it means to live the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm really looking forward to your presentation as well, to giving us an insight into your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen. And thank you for all the listeners and viewers. So I think you already mentioned it a bit that I'm not an AI specialist per se. So all the people that are looking for AI knowledge could turn off now if you want that. But what I want to give you is more like an impulse on how all those ideas that you generate in these hackathons or the prototypes, how can you put those ideas to the next level, right? How can you put them to the MVP stage or to the prototype stage, or maybe then launch it on the market and even scale it, right? And this is my job as a Chief Growth Officer at WeAccelerate. And I'm gonna share my screen. Yep.
Yes, please go ahead.
There you go. And the title of my short presentation, 5 to 10 minutes, is about innovation ecosystems as a tool to bring your ideas to market rapidly. I mean, you mentioned me already. I've co-founded a software as a startup, software as a service startup in the marketing area, exited successfully, and currently I'm an investor and business angel in the tech space. And just to start with our vision, some people may know WeAccelerate already, depending on how many people are watching from Austria, but our vision is to create and lead Austria's innovation ecosystem, right? And a lot of you might say, okay, what's an ecosystem? What's an innovation ecosystem? I heard this before. Is it a buzzword? What are you doing exactly, right? You also can see the word impactful in there, meaning we really want to create ideas and bring them to market that have a societal impact, like AI obviously already does on a big spectrum. So let's start with a research study in 2021 done by Accenture. They interviewed about 400 senior executives of the biggest corporations in the world, and they wanted to ask them how they're seeing the trend of the current business models going, right? And 76% of the CEOs interviewed are saying that the current business models will change profoundly in the next 5 years, right? Okay, but where's it going, right? 84% of these CEOs interviewed are saying that ecosystems could be a way out and maybe play an important part of the future strategy of their business, right? And before we go further, what exactly is an ecosystem, right? To give you a quick overview. First, you have industry ecosystem. It's the logic behind this, it's a buzzword, right? Without a meaning, I use it for marketing to attract customers. For example, we are the startup ecosystem of Munich, right? And we just make party and have fun and go out for a drink, right? The next level would kind of be a knowledge ecosystem. We exchange knowledge. We have a purpose behind it, right? We do networking, and maybe something comes out of it. Potentially, Impact Hub could be a good example. And platform ecosystems, I think they came along a quiet way the last decade or so. We have Airbnb, we have Amazon. They're a digital marketplace, so therefore they can scale and they create a lot of value for all the actors coming together, right? And the next level of that would be, or not even, you couldn't say it's better than a platform ecosystem, has a different approach, our innovation ecosystem. And innovation ecosystem, the logic behind this is that you can create a superior value proposition by partner alignment. And some example would be BMW, Swiss Post, a couple of big corporations that are already using that tool very, very effectively. And of course, I also put our logo in there. I'd say we also already a knowledge ecosystem, but we're using an innovation ecosystem as a tool to really drive ideas to the market, right? So, but what you need to really bring an innovation ecosystem or use the tool as an effective way, right? You need an orchestrator. This is if you look at the classical literature. And here, as you can see, you see a lot of logos, right? This should visualize our ecosystem. And in the middle, you can see a hub, right? Some of you may also have been here in Austria. We have a big hub here in the center of Vienna, where a lot of corporations already have a physical space here, right? You can see a lot of risk capital, venture capital, corporate venture capital. We can see a lot of startups and scale-ups. And our task as an orchestrator in the middle is to align the value chain between all these actors in the hub, but also outside the hub, right? And if you look at the innovation ecosystem as a whole, you need different actors. If you take the innovation process as a whole, right? You start with an idea, you validate it. Maybe you even start at research and development like a university does, right? Then I use that outcome of the research, and then based on that, I create ideas that could be implemented into the market and reality, right? And our task is to take the whole innovation process and bring all these actors in and align them together to launch really great ideas that couldn't have been done before that, right? And to give you a quick example, right? It was, I think it's to visualize it even better. A couple of years ago, I think it was 6 years ago, someone had an idea, right? To print out a sole, a 3D printed sole, individualized sole of my foot, so I can perform better, or I can solve my health issues when I'm walking, right? And this idea was generated at Adidas. Okay, who would know? Big corporation, multi-billion-dollar business, right? And they took about 2 to 4 years to develop this idea to bring it to the next steps. They used like $200 million in research and development, and because they thought they can do it by their own, right? They have the capabilities inside the corporation. But if you're coming from the innovation space, you know that big corporations usually don't have the best circumstances, let's say, to really innovative as a startup, right? Startups are small organizations. Big corporations have a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people involved, a lot of politics, and they have goals like budget is important, and I can't fail. The same logic in politics, right? So it's hard to innovate, right? At the same time, some guy sitting in this building had the same idea, right? Usually you're not alone, right? And what happened is that this guy in this building did in the same time, parallel to Adidas, did the same, and in the end he was bought by Adidas, and he used like a minimum amount of the money that Adidas already invested into the idea, and had even better product than Adidas, right, and brought to market. And as you can, here is a quite complicated graphic, but it shows the main message behind is that you have an orchestrator in the middle, right? It's the guy sitting in the building that goes step by step to the most important actors and builds around him an innovation ecosystem to really bring his idea of a 3D printed shoe sole as fast as possible and most efficient to the market, right? So the first step he would take is to probably bring a 3D printed provider on board, right? Then he needs some research, right? And then it's in material suppliers, and then there's an exchange of money. He needs to pay for license fees. He needs to pay fees for every time the software is used. He needs to get a corporation on board with the retail merchants, and the retail merchants bring it to the customer, etc., and so on. One important part is that you also can differentiate between different types of orchestrators. Depending if you have certain skills, you're more a strategic side, meaning you're more inclined to network amongst potential partners. You already bring the credibility amongst potential partners, meaning you can onboard them much faster. And you have usually a low distance of knowledge to field of business market, right? So you already have the knowledge that you have to have. Or are you more on the operative side? You have certain organizational and structural flexibility. This is the example of big corporation and small team, right? You have therefore a higher speed of product development, especially if you think of startups like a lean startup approach. And you also have a low distance of knowledge to technology and product, right? And to summarize, what the advantages of innovation ecosystem approach really are, is that you can really do cost-effective experiments. You can start as a solo guy, right? You have an idea, you bring on board the most important player that brings in the capabilities that you need or the resources. You have access to resources if you're good at selling your idea to other partners, right? That you usually don't have. Also, Adidas that doesn't have unlimited access to resources or knowledge. You can develop new collaboration partners, right? And out of that, even new business models can generate, right? If you started with an AI-based idea, suddenly I can use this data and develop even new business models around. So there are a lot of opportunities. I wouldn't say that an innovation ecosystem per se is the best approach for every idea, but I'm certainly sure that around your hackathon in Salz21, there are some ideas that could be implemented into market much faster using innovation ecosystem. And this is why I'm also thanking you for your time. I hope I gave you a bit of inspiration on how where the market can go. And it's also an invitation if you're around the DACH region, if you're in Germany, in Switzerland, or in Austria, to take a visit, to join us and innovate together. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for this wonderful presentation. A brief question from my side before we go to the last part of today. You mentioned that, for some teams, for some startups, it's a good idea to join innovation ecosystems based on the benefits you have provided. At what stage do you recommend those teams to look at joining innovation system? Is there, a guideline where, based on your experience and your expertise, you could recommend?
Yeah. I mean, as we accelerate, we're more focused on more mature startups, I'd say, because we work with a lot of big corporations. And big corporations have certain problems. And if you have already a use case on the other side, we can matchmake you, right? But as a general advice to young entrepreneurs, I would say join as soon as possible, even if you, in the beginning stage, you have only a PowerPoint presentation and you have an idea in your mind. You learn so much faster, right? And you don't make the same mistakes that all these other entrepreneurs did before you. So that's the general advice I would give. Talk to other people, right?
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for your time and for joining us today. You participants have heard now a lot of details about the hackathon. I just want to mention one more thing. If you need any help throughout the next 4 days, here are a few details mentioned. You have Discord channel hashtag Salz21 hackathon. You have I Need Help channel on Discord, or you can also use the tags @mentor@nasty to get advice and support immediately. Well, this leaves me to simply wish you good luck. Enjoy the next 4 days. I am so excited and looking forward to your projects, and of course to announcing the winners at Salz21 on March 16 at 5 p.m. Yes, enjoy the ride, and I would say ready, set, go. Now the time begins. Good luck with everything, and thanks to all the speakers for your time. Thanks to the lablab.ai team for the continuous support, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today. Have a good evening, have a good night, and see you soon. Take care. Bye.